Question 4 from the third year midterm paper. It's a sets question involving 3 sets. You're asked to draw a Venn diagram and you'll be asked for some information regarding it. And as we go through the information, 35 people coming back from America. So that's the universal set. Visiting New York, Boston or San Francisco. New York, Boston, San Francisco, and 20 people visited New York. Now that's not New York only, so we're not talking about filling this gap inside here. We're talking about in total, the total number of people who visited New York, who may have visited elsewhere, is 20. Likewise, Boston. It's not Boston only, it's Boston and possibly others. 16 for San Francisco. So those 3 pieces of information have been used up. 7 people visited all 3 cities. 3 had been to both New York and San Francisco, but not Boston. So New York and San Francisco, okay, I had been to both of them. So that's the intersection, but we're not referring to Boston. So what we're talking about is just this section here. So 3 people, New York and San Francisco, but not Boston. 1 person to both New York and Boston, but not San Francisco. So similarly, we're just looking at that section only. And 8 people had been to Boston and San Francisco. Now, the key thing here, it doesn't say, but not New York on the end here. It's just Boston and San Francisco. So that may include people who went to New York. It may not. It may involve a combination. Some of those 8 went to New York, some of them didn't. What we're talking about here, Boston and San Francisco, the intersection of Boston and San Francisco, is telling us that 8 went to both those 2 cities. Now obviously 7 of them did New York, and so obviously there's just 1 remaining. We now have enough information to be able to fill in the rest of the Venn diagram. Because we have a total of 20 for New York, we know that 11, that's 1 plus 7 plus 3, 11 people went to other places, so take 11 away from 20, and we are left with 9 for New York only. Likewise, 13 in total for Boston, of which 9 went elsewhere, so leaving 4 remaining, who only went to Boston. And lastly, there's 11 who went to other places as well as San Francisco, so there were 5 people that only went to San Francisco. Now if we were to add up those 7 numbers, so you've got 20 and 5 and a further 5, that's 30 in total. So however you wish to add up those numbers, that comes to a sum of 30. So therefore, if there's 35 in total for the entirety of the survey, and we know that 30 people went somewhere, okay, as defined, then the remainder, which is the 5, didn't go to those 3 cities, went elsewhere. Now if you can work through that information in a systematic way and not make mistakes and assumptions, the things like, it says New York, it doesn't say New York only, it just says New York. So that 20 was everyone. New York only would be the section here, but it doesn't say only. Those sorts of simple sort of language issues, if you understand what to do, you can work through the data in a systematic way and transplant the information onto the Venn diagram. There really should be no issues. Okay, and once you've got your Venn diagram, if it's done correctly, it doesn't matter what questions I ask afterwards, you really cannot make too many mistakes. So well, let's look at the rest of the question. So if 1 person was chosen at random from the group, what's the probability that the person had not visited any of these 3 cities? Well, we're talking about these 5 people here. So it's 5 out of 35. And you can reduce that down, since 5 is a common factor of 5 and 35, and you get 1/7. What's the probability of visiting New York only? Well, this is the 9 people that went to New York only. So that's 9 out of 35. And if that can be reduced down, then, which it can't, but if it were to be able to be reduced down, you reduce the fraction down as already discussed. And lastly, one person is chosen at random. What's probability the person visited Boston or New York? So or is a union. We're talking about, if we actually look at the Venn diagram again, Boston or New York. So what we're talking about here is there's Boston, there's New York. So Boston, New York is the union of all those people. Okay, now there's 5 and 5 that don't, so that's 10 away from 35. This sum is 25. You can add them up how you like. There's 10, 25. But if I say it's 25 out of 35, which can be reduced down, again, by dividing top and bottom by 5, to get 5/7.